Welcome back. All right, so did a career video on Yager. Player is not in the Hall of Fame because he's still playing. Now I'm going to talk about a guy who does get mentioned at times as people will ask, why isn't he in the Hall of Fame? And that's Bernie Nicholls. And there will be those who say, hey, he belongs in the Hall of Fame because, and there will be others who say he doesn't because, and then you throw in your argument, right? So he's drafted 73rd overall in 1980. And so not a top draft pick. Remember, there's only 21 teams in the league, so he's a fourth rounder that year. 81 82, 22 games played in his first year, 14 goals, 18 assists, 32 points. In the playoffs, well, 82 is when LA knocks out the Oilers in the first round, and he had 4 goals in 10 games for that run. So Bernie Nicholls, pretty impressive debut for him overall. 82-83, he builds on that. 71 games played, 28 goals, 22 assists for 50 points. So he's starting to build up that offense, right? And 83-84, that offense shows up in a big way. He goes to the All-Star game that year too. 78 games, 41 goals, 54 assists, 95 points. The LA Kings, the early 80s were basically an era of disappointment, of teams that had, one really good line. The Triple Crown line was fantastic, but there were issues outside of that. So you'd have Simmer, Dion, Taylor, fantastic line, and then outside of that there was a problem that there just wasn't that depth there. So Nicholls was part of the solution to this, right? And of course Dion would start to see his point totals dropping, and Nicholls gets more of an opportunity. 84-85, plays 80 games that year, 46 goals, which was 10th overall in the NHL, 54 assists, 100 points. Plays 3 games in the playoffs, 1 goal, 1 assist, 2 points. Not in the All-Star game, which is kind of a surprise, but 100 points for Bernie Nicholls, and that's his first of what would be 3 100-point seasons in his career. He drops back a bit in 85-86. 80 games played, 36 goals, 61 assists, which is impressive, and 97 points. So Bernie Nicholls has now established himself as a guy who can put up 95 to 100 points every year. But 86-87, it drops back a bit. 80 games, 33 goals, 48 assists, 81 points. In the playoffs, 5 games played, 2 goals, 5 assists, 7 points. 87-88, 65 games played, 32 goals, 46 assists, 78 points. So his points totals come up nicely. He only plays 65 games that year. In the playoffs, 5 games played, 2 goals, 6 assists, and 8 points. Everything changes in LA in 88-89 when somebody shows up, right? And it really benefited Nicholls. So the way that I saw it at the time, having watched hockey as long as I have, because I'm really old, is that the 88-89 Kings benefited from Nicholls not being watched nearly as much by other teams as he otherwise would have been, because Gretzky was now in the lineup. The Kings were a better team as well. So he had a career year. This is the definition of a career year. 79 games played, 70 goals, which was second overall in the NHL. 80 assists, which was fifth, showing that this is in fact the high-scoring 80s. 150 points, which was fourth overall in the NHL that year. In the playoffs, 11 games played, 7 goals, 9 assists, 16 points. All-Star game. Everything's going really, really well for Nicholls, right? And for the Kings. And so there's a lot of discussion about Nicholls and the 70-goal season and just how great everything looks. And the following season, everything still looks fantastic for him with the Kings. 47 games, 27 goals, 48 assists, 75 points. He's named to the All-Star team yet again. But something weird happens the day before the All-Star game. So this is odd, right? January 20th, he is traded by the LA Kings to the New York Rangers for Tony Granato and Thomas Sandstrom. It ends up being a pretty good deal for the Kings in that Granato and Sandstrom were both pretty good performers. It's an odd trade, though, and it really throws a lot of people off because it's All-Star weekend. And so on January 21st, he plays in the All-Star game for the Clarence Campbell Conference as an LA King, even though he's now a member of the New York Rangers. A little awkward. So he goes to the New York Rangers, and he stays above a point a game, but not playing with the Kings has a dramatic effect on his output. 32 games with the Rangers after the trade, 12 goals, 25 assists, 37 points. His totals, 73 assists that year, was 6th overall. 112 points, 6th overall as well. But again, once he was out of the LA Kings, he was still a very good player, point producer, sure. but it had a dramatic effect overall. So he played the 10 games in the playoffs for the Rangers that year, 7 goals, 5 assists, 12 points. And he's still a Ranger in 90-91. 71 games, 25 goals, 48 assists, 73 points. In the playoffs, 5 games played, 4 goals, 3 assists, 7 points. And then things get unusual again. 91-92. He is part of an absolutely huge trade. So big that they complete it later. He plays 1 game for the Rangers. I'm not going to say he had a bad game, but he played 1 game, no points. And on October 4th, he's traded. He's traded with Louis DeBrusque, Stephen Rice. David Shaw would be added to the trade November 12th. So they have the trade and they say we'll complete it later, which is weird. But player to be named later is in the trade for both teams. So David Shaw going to the Oilers, going to the New York Rangers, Mark Messier, and Jeff Bukaboom. So he plays with Gretzky and he's traded for Messier. Honestly, and then he's going to the Oilers. So the New York Rangers, who are still hearing the 1940 chants at this point, add Mark Messier. The Edmonton Oilers, who are looking for, I'll say, cheaper options because they can't afford to pay everybody. Losing Messier is a huge blow to the Edmonton Oilers overall. And so, they're looking for something back, something, that they can use. Well, Bernie Nicholls is a center, same as Messier. And so they're just going, okay, we can work with this. He plays 49 games with the Oilers, 20 goals, 29 assists, 49 points. To his credit, in the playoffs, 16 games, 8 goals, 11 assists, 19 points. They would get taken out in the conference final by the Blackhawks that year. And the Hawks, by the end of that series, they were clearly the better team than the Oilers. And so the Oilers are in decline, right? This is the official in decline. They won the Cup in 1990 with Messier. They trade Messier in 92, kind of the ultimate way of saying, so the dynasty's done. It's finished. And that dynasty, a lot of those players would go to the New York Rangers. 92-93 plays 46 games for the Oilers, 8 goals, 32 assists, 40 points. It is a remarkable drop. Remarkable from 1989, where he's a 150-point player, to 1993, where now he's below a point a game. He has 8 goals in 46 games, and it's just not working in Edmonton. So they trade him. January 13th, he's traded for Zdeno Seeger and Kevin Todd. So how the mighty have fallen, right? He plays 23 games for the Devils in 92-93 after the trade. 5 goals, 15 assists, 20 points. Plays 5 playoff games and no points. 93-94, still with the Devils. 61 games, 19 goals, 27 assists, 46 points. In the playoffs, 16 games, 4 goals, 9 assists, 13 points. He is a part of that Devils team that is taken out by the New York Rangers on their way to a Stanley Cup final and a Stanley Cup victory in 94 after the Messier guarantee of a victory over said Devils. So tough time for him. He's with the Rangers shortly before they win their Stanley Cup. He's with the Oilers shortly after they win their last Stanley Cup. He leaves the Devils in 94, being eliminated by the Rangers as they win the Cup, and a year before the Devils will win the Cup. He is signed July 14th as a free agent by the Chicago Blackhawks. In Chicago that year, 48 games, 22 goals, 29 assists, 51 points. He's with a Hawks team that goes to conference finals as well. 16 games, 1 goal, 1 assist, and 2 points. So the offense in the playoffs, not there, but during the regular season, when he played, he was above a point a game. And he's above a point a game again in 95-96. Plays 59 games. So now we're into the part where injuries are a problem. And 19 goals, 41 assists, 60 points in the playoffs. 10 games played, 2 goals, 7 assists, 9 points. And of course, as players get older, you will hear the discussions of whether or not they've lost their speed, whether or not they can keep up with the game. And yeah, he's getting points, but... And so those conversations are being had with Nicholls as well. So his contract expires in Chicago. August 5th, he signs as a free agent with the San Jose Sharks. 65 games played in 96-97 with the Sharks. 12 goals, 33 assists, 45 points for Nicholls. So again, the points totals aren't awful, really. 96-97, we're at a point now where the NHL we're seeing less scoring. So his totals are not bad for that era. 97-98 is really where the offense drops right off. 60 games, 6 goals, 22 assists, 28 points. In the playoffs, 6 games and 5 helpers. 98-99, he only plays 10 games for the Sharks, records 2 assists during those 10 games, and that would round out his National Hockey League career. His overall totals are very good. 1,127 games played, 475 goals, 734 assists, 1,209 points. In the playoffs, 118 games, 42 goals, 72 assists, 114 points. But, again, Nicholls is never a finalist for an award. Nicholls doesn't win like a scoring title. He has one 50-goal season, which is a 70-goal season here. He has numerous 40-goal seasons in there. A couple of 100-point seasons. Nicholls was a very good player. And the 150-point season raised that bar to a level he couldn't get to again, especially when the team he's playing with, where he still scored 75 points in 47 games prior to the trade. Once they traded him, he never got back to that height. That's the reason I'm wearing a Kings jersey for this. Plus, most of his career, he spent a large portion of his career with the Kings, right? So I felt like, well, I have to wear Kings. I'm not going to wear Devils or Blackhawks for this. So Bernie Nicholls, it's an interesting career because I know there are those who'll say because of him having 1,200 points, he should be in the Hall of Fame. And then there'll be those who say, you know what, he never won an award in his career. He was a very good center. He was a very good center. And again, it was 88, 89, 70 goals. And being behind Gretzky, I would say, and I don't have the numbers on this, has to be the most that a second line center's ever scored. That's ridiculous. Second line centers aren't supposed to produce like that. So it was an excellent year. Definitely helped him get to that 1,209 points. Definitely helped keep him above a point a game throughout his career. But even without that season, he still would have been above a point per game throughout his career. So there you go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below about the career of Bernie Nicholls. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Thank you guys so much for watching, for all your support. I will talk to you again soon.